I welcome you to my channel. Subscribe and listen to my new stories every day. It was an unusually chilly May evening, and the setting sun cast long shadows across the living room where I sat, flicking through the channels aimlessly. Adelia, my wife of 7 years, was late again. She said she was swamped at work, but her office had never demanded so much of her time before, not until these past few months. As I reached for my coffee, my hand brushed against Adelia's cell phone, left carelessly on the coffee table. The screen lit up, flashing a notification for a missed call. Curiosity nudged at me. It wasn't typical of Adelia to leave her phone unattended. Picking it up, I swiped through the security pattern I had watched her input countless times. The call history opened up, revealing a list of familiar names, except for one, Daniel. My brow furrowed. Who was Daniel? The name appeared repeatedly, always during times she was supposedly at work or running late. The seeds of doubt took root in my mind, sprouting a reckless idea. I pressed the call button before I could second-guess myself. The phone rang twice before a male voice answered, tinged with confusion and anticipation. Have you forgiven me? Everything with Veronica is in the past, I only love you. Don't hang up on me. His words hit me like a bucket of ice water. Forgiveness? Veronica? Who was he talking to? It took me a moment to find my voice. Who is this? I managed, my voice steadied despite the chaos brewing inside. There was a pause. I'm sorry, who is this? The voice stuttered, suddenly cautious. I'm Adelia's husband, I said, the reality of the situation settling in like a heavy stone in my stomach. Who are you? I'm Daniel. I think there's been a misunderstanding, he replied quickly, a hint of nervousness creeping into his tone. I must have dialed the wrong number. Wrong number? Not likely. Daniel, you've been calling my wife frequently. Why? There was a sigh on the other end, then silence. It was clear he was deciding how much to reveal. Finally, he spoke, his voice resigned. Look, I thought she was single. We met online. I didn't know about you. The revelation was a sucker punch to my already reeling senses. My Adelia, with someone else. And him, a victim of her lies just as I was. Anger flared within me, but alongside it, a plan began to form. I needed to confront Adelia, but I also wanted Daniel to know the whole truth. Meet me at the Oakwood Cafe tomorrow morning. There's more you need to know, I said firmly, hanging up before he could protest. That night, as I lay in bed waiting for Adelia to come home, the pieces started to fall into place. Her late nights, the distant look in her eyes, the less frequent touches. It wasn't just work, she was seeing someone else. When Adelia finally arrived, I was ready. We need to talk, I said, my voice devoid of the warmth it once held. Her face paled, a look of fear taking over as she noticed her phone in my hand. What's wrong? It's over, Adelia, I declared, my decision cemented by the agony and betrayal coiling in my gut. I know about Daniel. The confrontation that followed was a blur of accusations, denials, and tears. But my mind was made up. We divorced quickly, and our paths parted forever, leaving me to nurse my wounds and rebuild from the ashes of a love that was based on nothing but lies. The morning air was crisp as I made my way to the Oakwood Cafe, a small, quaint place that Adelia and I used to frequent. Today, the familiar setting felt alien, tinged with the bitterness of betrayal. I arrived early, securing a table at the back where I could see the door. My heart pounded in my chest, not from the chill of the morning, but from the anticipation of the upcoming confrontation with Daniel. Daniel arrived right on time, looking around nervously before spotting me and walking over. He was younger than I expected, with a worried frown creasing his brow. He took the seat opposite me, his eyes wary. Thanks for meeting me, I started, keeping my voice even. I think we both deserve some answers. Daniel nodded, swallowing hard. I agree. I had no idea she was married. She told me she was separated, looking to start over. I sighed, feeling the weight of every lie Adelia had told. She wasn't separated. We were very much together until last night. My words hung heavily between us. Daniel's eyes widened. Last night? I nodded grimly. I found out about you too. Confronted her. It's over now. We're getting divorced. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, looking distressed. Man, I'm sorry. I never wanted to be that guy. If I had known. Did she tell you about anyone else? Someone named Veronica? I asked, trying to piece together the other part of the puzzle. He paused, thinking. She mentioned a friend named Veronica once, said she was going through a tough time. I didn't think much of it. His gaze met mine, filled with regret. I can't believe she lied to us both. The cafe buzzed around us with the morning rush, but our table felt like an isolated island. I need to find Veronica, I said resolutely. Find out what role she actually plays in all this. Daniel nodded. I can help you with that. I think I might have her contact in my phone. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through it, and then showed me a contact entry. Here. I'll send it to you, he said, his fingers tapping on the screen. My phone pinged with the incoming information. Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate it, I replied, the gears in my mind turning. Revenge was not normally in my nature, but the deceit was too deep, too painful to let go without action. Daniel stood, his chair scraping back. Look, I really am sorry about all this. I hope you find what you're looking for, he said sincerely. As he left, I dialed the number he'd given me. It rang 3 times before a cautious female voice answered. Hello. Veronica. My name is. Before I could finish, she cut in, sharp and quick. If this is about Adelia, I have nothing to say to you. I pressed, my voice hardening. I think you do. I think you owe me that much, at least. There was a long silence, and then a sigh. Fine. Meet me at Riverside Park in an hour. We'll talk. I hung up, a mix of anger and determination fueling me. The next hour would be crucial, and I was ready to face whatever came next. The tangled web of lies was unraveling, and I was at the center, pulling at the strings. Riverside Park was quiet, with only the gentle rustling of leaves and the distant sound of traffic piercing the calm. The gray clouds overhead threatened rain, matching the turmoil inside me as I walked towards the designated meeting spot. I spotted Veronica sitting on a bench near the river, her posture tense, her eyes scanning the area until they landed on me. As I approached, she stood up, her expression guarded. You must be Adelia's husband, she said without preamble, her voice laced with apprehension. Yes, I am, I confirmed, my gaze fixed on her. And you are Veronica. Daniel mentioned you were just a friend going through a tough time, but somehow, I doubt that's the whole truth. Veronica sighed, her shoulders slumping slightly. It's complicated. Adelia and I were close, more than just friends at one point. But it wasn't just me. There were others. The revelation stung, even if I wasn't entirely surprised. Others? I pressed, needing to understand the full extent of Adelia's betrayal. Yes, she replied, her eyes meeting mine with a mixture of defiance and shame. Adelia lived a double life. I ended things when I realized it wasn't just me she was lying to. And Daniel? I asked, the pieces of the puzzle slowly coming together. She shook her head. A pawn in her game. Like me, he didn't know about you. Adelia told him she was separated. She told me you were controlling and that she was planning to leave. Anger flared within me, but I kept my voice steady. Why are you telling me this now? Why help me? Because I'm tired of the lies, and I think you deserve the truth. I'm not asking for forgiveness, but maybe we can help each other get closure," Veronica offered, her tone earnest. I considered her words, the weight of the deceit pressing down on me. "What do you propose?" "Confront her together. Show her that her actions have consequences. We could expose her lies, make sure she doesn't do this to anyone else," Veronica suggested, her eyes searching mine for a reaction. It was a risky move, one that could spiral out of control, but the thought of Adelia facing the reality of her actions was too tempting to dismiss. "All right. Let's do it. Do you know where we can find her now?" "She's likely at the art gallery. She often goes there on Saturdays, pretending to be interested in new exhibits," Veronica explained, a hint of bitterness in her voice. We agreed to meet there and parted ways temporarily. As I drove to the gallery, my mind raced with the possible outcomes of this confrontation. The betrayal was deeper than I had imagined, and the need for retribution grew stronger with every mile that passed. Upon arriving, I saw Adelia through the glass facade of the gallery, admiring a painting as if she hadn't a care in the world. My heart pounded against my ribcage, not just with anger but with a profound sense of finality about what was about to happen. Veronica arrived shortly after, giving me a curt nod. Together, we entered the gallery, our steps echoing in the spacious room. Adelia turned towards the sound, her smile faltering as she caught sight of us. "Adelia," I began, my voice echoing slightly, "it's time we all had a talk." Her eyes darted between me and Veronica, the color draining from her face. "What is this? What are you doing here together?" "We know everything, Adelia," Veronica said sharply. "The lies, the cheating, it ends today." Adelia backed away slightly, her facade crumbling. "I can explain." "No," I cut her off, firm and resolute. "Not this time. You will listen." As I laid out everything we knew, her defenses shattered, exposing the depth of her deceit. The confrontation was intense, filled with heated exchanges and bitter truths. It was the closure I needed, the retribution I deserved. As we left the gallery, the sky finally opened, rain washing over the city as if cleansing the deceit I had endured. The chapter of Adelia was closed, and it was time to rebuild from the ruins of betrayal. In the weeks that followed the confrontation at the gallery, the city seemed to echo my own unrest, with storm clouds perpetually looming on the horizon. My heart, once filled with love for Adelia, now harbored only a cold resolve. The revelations of her betrayals had shattered any remnants of affection I might have clung to. Revenge, once a distant thought, now became my sole focus. I dedicated myself to meticulously crafting a plan that would not only expose Adelia's duplicity to all but ensure she could never deceive another soul. My plan hinged on one critical event, the upcoming charity auction she was organizing, an event where the city's elite would gather, where her reputation as a trustworthy and dedicated professional would be her undoing. I secured an invitation through a well-connected friend and prepared myself to execute the final act of my retribution. As the evening of the auction arrived, I donned my sharpest suit, the fabric a dark reflection of my intentions. The venue was lavish, the crowd a swirl of opulence and vanity. Adelia, radiant in a shimmering gown, played the perfect hostess. Little did she know, her world was about to crumble. I approached her with a tight smile, holding a thick envelope. "Adelia," I greeted, handing her the envelope subtly. "A little something to ensure tonight goes down in history." Puzzled but ever composed, she tucked the envelope away without opening it, her attention momentarily caught by another guest. I moved through the crowd, positioning myself near the main projector used for the auction display. As the auction commenced, my device, a small remote control, rested heavily in my pocket. Halfway through the event, right when a prized piece was about to be auctioned, I pressed the button. Instantly, the projector screen flickered and changed, displaying emails, messages, and photos of Adelia's deceit, not just with Daniel and Veronica, but with others, far more than even I had known. The room plunged into an uproar. Adelia's eyes found mine across the room, filled with horror and betrayal. She rushed to the projector, frantically trying to stop the slideshow, but her actions only fueled the flames of the scandal. As she stood accused by everyone around her, her facade of innocence shattered, I approached her, my voice low and devoid of warmth. Everyone knows now. You're finished, Adelia. Tears streamed down her face, her usual eloquence replaced by sobs. How could you do this? It's cruel, she cried, her voice drowning in the chaos around us. You taught me cruelty, I replied coldly, turning my back on her misery. I left the venue without a backward glance, the sounds of the continuing commotion echoing behind me. The night air was chilly, fittingly bitter, as I walked away. I felt a hollow victory, the taste of revenge far less sweet than I had imagined. It was over, yet the emptiness lingered. Days turned into weeks, and the fallout from the auction was catastrophic for Adelia. Ruined professionally and socially, she became a pariah, her manipulations and lies finally catching up to her. I monitored her downfall from a distance, my once vengeful heart now grappling with the shadows of remorse for the ruthlessness of my actions. Then, one evening, the final twist of fate arrived with a knock at my door. A somber police officer stood before me, his hat held in his hands. Are you the husband of Adelia? Ex-husband, I corrected instinctively, my pulse quickening. I regret to inform you, sir, that Ms. Adelia was found deceased in her apartment this afternoon. It appears to be a suicide. The news struck me with an unexpected force, the reality of my revenge culminating in her tragic end. As the officer offered his condolences, I stood frozen, the ghost of Adelia's desperate, tear-streaked face haunting me. In seeking retribution, I had lost myself to the darkness I had aimed to combat. The realization that my quest for vengeance had driven her to such despair was a burden I would carry forever. The deception had ended, and so had our paths, forever severed by the hatred of betrayal and the cruel hand of revenge.